Oh no, MAGA is not gonna like this. I have some video for you of Donald Trump himself in the 2016 campaign. Okay, this is not from the 90s. This is from when Trump was seeking the Republican nomination or was the Republican candidate already, one of the two. He was a Republican, proud of it, and running for president. Many of these Trump supporters already supported him at this point in time. And he actually spoke on this whole trans bathroom debate. Let's hear what he had to say. This coming back up because of Nancy Mace desperately wanting to be in the spotlight again. So she's targeting one member of Congress. We have the first in history trans member of Congress, Sarah McBride. And so Nancy Mace is saying, ban her from Capitol bathrooms or from women's bathrooms at the Capitol. And Trump, back when this was a debate during the 2016 campaign, said something again that the current stance, they always talk about how the left is the thing is shifting to the left. The left left me, right? I didn't change my views, Piers Morgan might say. And it's actually here, MAGA must have shifted to the right, because here's what their king was saying just some years ago. While you're watching, you might notice, if you look at the channel, we are this close. By the time you're watching this, it might be 3K subscribers away from 1 million subscribers. You guys are amazing. Doing it so rapidly. I appreciate you so much. If you're not subscribed, please do. Here's Trump.
You have a Twitter question?
Yeah, we're getting thousands of questions on Twitter, Mr. Trump. I picked one here. This is from Jessica Hershey, Toms River, New Jersey. I'll just read it as a quote on a hot button issue here. Mr. Trump, please be specific. Tell us your views on LGBT, how you plan to be inclusive as president. Speak about North Carolina bathroom law in particular.
Oh, I had a feeling that question was going to come up. I will tell you. Well, look, North Carolina did something that was very strong. And they're paying a big price, and there's a lot of problems. And I heard one of the best answers I heard was from a commentator yesterday saying, leave it the way it is right now. There have been very few problems. Leave it the way it is. North Carolina, what they're going through with all of the business that's leaving and all of the strife, and that's on both sides. You leave it the way it is. There have been very few complaints the way it is. People go, they use the bathroom that they feel is appropriate. There has been so little trouble. And the problem with what happened in North Carolina is the strife and the economic punishment that they're taking. So I would say that's probably the best.
Do you have any transgender people working in your organization?
I don't know.
No?
I really don't know. I probably do. I really don't know.
So if Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses?
That is correct.
Hello today.
Oh no! Radical leftist! And what's interesting is, again, this leading to Politico headline, Trump says transgender people can use whatever bathroom they want, leave it the way that it is. I think the wording, as terrible as Trump is, he actually worded the argument correctly, which is, when this wasn't an issue before, it's like they'll invent a problem and then be freaking out about it, but that problem didn't become an issue because it was a problem. It became a problem because you wanted to make it an issue, right? A political issue, that is. And this is what the Republican Party does. Again, this coming from Delaware State Senator Sarah McBride winning a U.S. House seat. I'll actually let you hear from her responding to this, becoming first openly transgender member of Congress. And I think men in the men's bathroom would be rather confused if Sarah McBride walked into there, which is what Nancy Mace is saying she must do. And actually, Mike Johnson is implementing this into the House rules. So to demonize one person, to distract from their own policy failures, they're again bringing this back up. Anytime bad news starts happening, we've been hearing a lot about what I think a lot of Americans, even some who voted for Trump, would be uncomfortable with in terms of who Trump is picking to be in his cabinet, to be in his administration. Whenever you see reports about what Trump might want to cut in the crucial programs and what the Department of Education's fate might be, and you think, gosh, this surely is not a positive news cycle for MAGA, you can just set your watch to something about trans is going to start being talked about, because that is the one hammer they seem to have. And because I spoke yesterday more comprehensively about this subject and others, and in the segment where I review my appearance on Piers Morgan, we'll get into it a little bit more. I won't go through the whole thing again, but it is it is strange how an issue that, just like Trump put it, MAGA, argue with him, not me. We can just leave it the way that it is. Now, obviously, the example I gave before is if Jaden, producer Jaden, or myself walks into a woman's restroom, I see why some people would be off-put. And I just say, well, it's because I'm a woman. That's not what's going on. And a really important statistic is that trans women going into women's restrooms or trans men going into men's restrooms does not, if you actually review the data, detach yourself from the emotions and the provocation of it all, does not increase assault likelihood or harassment likelihood. But forcing trans women to go into men's restrooms or trans men to go into women's restrooms does increase harassment on the trans person, right? So the only thing that you seem to be advocating for is either we can keep the status quo that no one really had an issue with until you started yelling about it, and it's a sliver of a sliver of a sliver of people that we're referring to, or you can do something that will enable more assaults and harassment on the trans folks. Seems easy. A much more simple subject than the sports one, but because with the sports one they've gotten a lot of political capital, and I addressed that one before, they are sort of like, well, let's go back to some of our greatest hits. Ron Filipkowski noted that Nancy Mace has now made 126 posts in the last 24 hours about the bathroom in the Capitol. I saw someone say, can we just get a porta potty for Nancy Mace that just gets brought around with her at any time so that she can stop screaming about this? And again, the facts, the data show that if we go the MAGA direction, we will exacerbate harm, as I mentioned. If you go the keep it the status quo way, statistically, we actually won't. Then you have Sarah McBride herself saying, interesting, this is their focus instead of the things that matter to all Americans.
Let's be clear. The party that was focused on culture wars, the party that was focused on trans people, was the Republican Party. It was Donald Trump. It was the $100 million, $200 million that they spent on television ads. But I want to be clear, I do not believe, from what I've seen in Delaware, that voters in my state were responding to those attacks. Delaware is in the Philadelphia media market, so we were seeing those ads that Donald Trump clearly prioritized and focused in with regard to the culture wars. What I was hearing from voters across the state of Delaware, my district is urban, suburban, and rural. It looks like America. And what I was hearing was not the ads that Donald Trump was putting on the air. What I was hearing from folks is the need to build an economy that works for everyone. What I was hearing was that the American dream is increasingly unaffordable and inaccessible. What I was hearing was that we need to guarantee affordable health care, housing, and child care for every person in this state and in this country. That's what I was hearing. That's what I was campaigning on. I didn't run on my identity, but my identity was not a secret. And in a state where 2/3 of the voters are in the Philadelphia media market, with a trans candidate on the ballot statewide, that candidate not only performed on par with other Democrats, but had the highest percentage of any Democrat running for major statewide office in Delaware this cycle. And so I think what we have to all recognize here is that when a politician tries to take an issue that impacts a handful of people in a handful of states and turn it into the most important issue in an election, everyone has to ask why. And the answer to that question is that Donald Trump was trying to divide and distract from the fact that he has absolutely no policy solutions for the issues that are actually keeping voters up at night, the issues that I was hearing about on the campaign trail. And I think we have to be crystal clear as we move forward that we are going to call out the hypocrisy of Donald Trump, of disingenuously claiming that he is a fighter for working people when his agenda is pro-high.
And Trump wants to distract from the fact that from all we can tell, his big economic proposals are incoherent tariffs that he doesn't seem to be able to explain, but if he did some of the things that he spit out during campaign events would be disastrous for the cost, which was one of the things they pretend like they care about. And then the first thing they do whenever they're not even fully in power, but elected to it, is get back on the trans stuff. And then policy number 2, economically, is more tax cuts that will be offset based on the reporting we talked about yesterday with cuts to crucial programs that help working people who need that support, so that we can shove more wealth in the direction of people who don't need any more support, doing fine. Don't focus on that. Trans person's coming for you. That's what this is. And Sarah McBride perfectly laid it out there. She's saying, even though I'm the one being demonized, I'm not even going to make it about that. I'm going to make it about the broader effort that now on this show we've been talking about since I started it, to distract voters from their own material pain with scapegoats, with boogie men and women, and with fear-mongering. Because, again, separate from how I think that I am correct on the substance of this, as I explained to you, data supporting it, I also don't think a single MAGA person who's just walking around living their life, before right-wing media started pumping this into their homes, thought about whether or not a trans person was next to them in the bathroom. I don't think that came into their brain until someone told them it should be in there. But what is in their brain, regardless of if someone tells them, is their job security, is their economic standing, the education of their children. And so why not do what both impacts more people and is the logical, compassionate, loving approach? Seems pretty simple to me. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Support the show by getting that members only bonus show by clicking the join button below.